Hey everyone, this is Megan Perdon. Welcome back to another episode of Food of Knowledge. In the last episode, we talked about whether or not basketball strategies matter in a game. In today's episode, we will be talking about the stubborn, hard-headed block we know as writer's block. You see, many of us have gone down that road. Whether we were writing an essay, writing down some poetry, or just a simple text message. In this podcast, with the help of Mauricio Castillo, Mike Rose, and Elizabeth M. Baker, we will have a deeper understanding as to what writer's block is, what causes it, and much more. First, you will be hearing what Mr. Castillo says about writer's block. Mr. Castillo is a professor and division chief of neuroradiology at the University of North Carolina. He served as a member on the editorial boards of 11 journals and has either authored or co-authored 550 articles and 17 books. And this is what he has to say about it. As a writer myself, I have gone through writer's block just as yourself. With that being said, I decided to use that occasion to familiarize myself with this condition and try to liberate myself from it. Writer's block varies in intensity from extreme, such as abandoning one's career as an author. For example, think Harper Lee and Ralph Ellison, to trivial and temporary. The most common causes cited for writer's block are lack of inspiration, illness, depression, financial pressure, and a sense of failure. Writer's block is a modern notion, and the term was coined in 1947 by Dr. Edmund Bergler, a famous Austrian psychiatrist living in New York. In them, procrastination is a major component of writer's block. Procrastination is learned, so education specialists claim that it can be unlearned. Perfectionism is also blamed for the block. It seems to motivate some procrastination, and together they both promote writer's block. Writer's block is better termed creative inhibition or creative block. Although many of us know about it now, writer's block was little known by the early Romantic writers. It became more prominent during the approach of French symbolists and last was rampant during the period of the Great American Novel. Writer's block has been assessed in individuals who speak languages other than English. 2 studies addressed it in Chinese and Spanish native speakers and found that it occurs in those languages as it does in English. In other languages, as in English, writer's block appears to be related to premature editing and lack of strategies for dealing with complex writing tasks. With that being said, to help that from happening, developing a strategy before the actual writing helps some individuals. A Princeton professor, John McPhee, suggests that having a pre-planned structure eases the stress of writing and results in a better organized and flowing article. The use of a computer with word processing capabilities reduces writer's block for second language writers, but not for native language writers. Spelling is also intimately related to the inability to write. In one study, disabled spellers showed significantly more activation in clusters of neural networks associated with the working memory and executive functions. With what I said earlier, computer programs that automatically correct spelling may help these individuals overcome writer's block. And of course, at the very end, you're questioning, so how do I get over this? How do I cope with writer's block? Or how can I cure this writer's block that I have? Well, some strategies for coping with writer's block include group discussions, brainstorming, list making, and engaging with the text. I hope all of this information that I have told you help you. Thank you. Next, I will be telling you what Mike Rose has to say about writer's block. Mike Rose is an American education scholar and research professor of social research methodology in the UCLA Graduate School of Education and Information Studies. Our viewers have heard from Mr. Castillo as to what writer's block is and the common causes of writer's block. Now I will be telling you what Mike Rose has to say about writer's block. Fortunately, researchers have no surveys or tabulations of how many writers, professional or student, experience writer's block. His pilot survey suggests that at least 10% of college students block frequently. Writer's block is a problem outside of the classroom as well. It's possible that sustained experiences of writer's block influence students' career choices. Frequent blockers could have trouble envisioning themselves in jobs requiring reports or extensive memoranda. The odd thing is that even though writer's block is a familiar, even popular notion, it is one of the least studied dysfunctions of the composing process. His assumption is that some cases of students' writer's block might be linked to variables that are more cognitive than affective or motivational, and more cognitive than sociological political. To his knowledge, a cognitive orientation has never been applied to writer's block. I will establish the limiting boundaries. First, the basic writer has difficulty getting words on paper. And a major reason for these students' scant productions is simply a lack of fundamental writing skills. Blocking presupposes basic writing skills. And second, a student can possess basic writing skills but still not produce much because she is either tired, bored, or in some way not committed to completing the writing task at hand. With that being said, writer's block can be defined as an inability to begin or continue writing for reasons other than a lack of basic skill or commitment. Blocking is not simply measured by the passage of time, but by the passage of time with limited productive involvement in the writing task. Certain behaviors are associated with blocking, such as feeling of anxiety, frustration, anger, or confusion often characterize this unproductive work. Blocking can be manifested in many ways, such as some high blockers produce only a few sentences, others produce more, but usually these sentences will be false starts, repetitions, blind alleys, or disconnected fragments of discourse. You may ask, how does writer's block differ from the related concept of writing apprehension? Well, you see, writer's block is broader and subsumes writing apprehension as a possible cause of or reaction to blocking. Marvin Rosenberg suggests that people experiencing writer's block have been culturally conditioned to inhibit primary process fantasies and reports the successful use of hypnosis to release the creative imagination. Last but not least, I will be telling you what Elizabeth M. Baker has to say about writer's block. Elizabeth M. Baker, who is a Master of Arts and majored in English. Let us have a quick break before I tell you what she has to say about writer's block. Earlier, you have heard from Mike Rose and Mr. Castillo about what writer's block is, what causes it, and so much more. And this is what Miss Baker has to say about writer's block. Well, you see, most writers have been blocked at one point, which I'm sure most of the viewers who are listening to this right now have been through writer's block. Sometimes this block may have involved delaying the start of a much desired or even required writing project. Whatever form the block takes, it remains especially troubling for the writer, not to mention others interested in the writer's progress and eventual product, such as teachers and editors. Just as Rose said earlier, blocking may show up in different ways. For instance, The blocked writer may produce a number of sentences, but may not signal any progress. They may be false starts or just repetitions. Or the writer may stop in the middle of writing and be unable to resume. Writer's block, as most researchers see it, is not due to the lack of writing skills. Although writer's block can strike any writer, some may be especially prone to suffer from it. Those who frequently have trouble getting started may be relying on time-honored but unproductive rituals for composing, such as waiting for inspiration before beginning to write, which I'm sure many of us can relate to. Other students, in particular, may be blocked because of instruction through teachers and texts based on traditional linear model of composing, which may emphasize and encourage following rules. The viewers who are listening to this podcast right now can relate to this. You see, not many of us can be interested in what teachers give us. We all have different interests. Although we may need to write on what the teachers give us, some may be able to write right away, or some may need some time to get some inspiration to write about what the teachers give us. We all have our own timing. Within the classroom, writing appears to be a set of rules and models for the correct arrangement of pre-existent ideas. While reading and researching on writer's block, it has come to my conclusion that all three of my sources have related writer's block to students. They all have given examples as to how it affects students and as to why it affects them. Although that is a similarity, they have differences as well. Castillo talked about the causes behind writer's block, such as lack of inspiration, pressure, etc. Rose talked about the leads of writer's block, the different types of people who go through it. And Baker talks specifically about students. Although these are all research, many of the information given are just what they know and what they think about writer's block. There is so much more information out there to find out about. I have experienced writer's block on so many occasions, such as researching, writing essays, and even writing poetry for my own enjoyment. Writer's block can be very stressful and annoying in so many ways, because all you want to do is get the job finished and be done with it, but writer's block really keeps you back from doing so. Castillo said that the most common causes cited for writer's block are lack of inspiration, illness, depression, financial pressure, and sense of failure. In my experience, sense of failure and lack of inspiration seems to be causes of my writer's block. When doing research and essays, I always want them to be perfect because, of course, I want to get a good grade, which is a normal thing for students with high expectations for themselves. When writing poetry, lack of inspiration plays a big part. Sometimes I would like to write poetry, but I wouldn't know what to write, so I would just be staring without writing anything. It's frustrating, and I'm pretty sure you've gone through it as well. After listening to this podcast, I hope you got a deeper understanding as to what writer's block is and how you can overcome it. It is a struggle that many of us go through, but is not something we can't overcome. This is Megan Pradhan. Thank you for listening.